Welcome to Scattered Travel. I'm your host, Debbie Gerber. We are going on a Baltic Sea Cruise. Cruising on these fascinating and fancy cruise ships is so romantic, but so is going somewhere new and fascinating that neither one of you have ever been before. For this trip, we were on the Vision of the Seas by Royal Caribbean. It was a very nice ship, fancy, great staff, and there's usually this long cement walkway dock that you go down to get on and off the ship at each of the ports. When you first get on the ship, go up top because up on the upper deck, they usually have a band playing and a buffet for you so that you can be up on deck watching as you pull out of port. It's also a good time to go check out the rest of the ship and see where different things are located and what's offered to you, get any questions answered you have, so that you are more comfortable on the ship and can spend your time having fun on it. The bands are usually upbeat and fun to watch. You can dance if you want to. There's usually a bar right there. You could swim. Check and see the hours for when the pool's open and when it's not, because sometimes when they're in at port, it is not going. So check out the ship and see what there is to see. The indoor swimming pool was in a solarium that was just beautiful. Walls of windows, very warm, beautiful artwork, fun place to swim. For me, it was a great place to hang out and do my book work and my computer work, which is one of the things I come to do. My husband, on the other hand, as you can see, reads books. So we have a good time when we go on a cruise, and that's the whole point. As we checked out the ship, they also had a salon. A salon is a fun thing to do. Just be sure that if you're going to have any treatments done, or you are going to have massages or take classes, that you get signed up early because they go really quick. They fill up and then you can't get in. Also, try out a couples massage on a cruise. That's an awful lot of fun. In the evening, they have continual entertainment going in the evening for you, so that you're never bored. There's also a casino. There are clubs on board and discos. There's also a theater in the evening, beautiful theater on this ship with really high-class, great entertainment that, you know, it's all included. Remember, when you're on a ship, your food and your entertainment's included. And at night, you get to come back to your room. And a lot of the ships, especially this one, every night we had a cute animal made at night. During the daytime, they had classes where they taught us to make these towel animals. And so you could fold your own animals and learn how to do it, so you'd come home and do it for each other. And also they showed us how to do napkin folding. A fun thing to do, because when you come home, you got something to show off. Like I said, food's included, and sometimes they have formal evenings where you can dress up and you have pictures with the captain and you get all this fancy food. Like escargot is one of my favorite foods when I go on a cruise. The cruise that we went on to the Baltic Seas started in Copenhagen, Denmark. Its first stop was up in Tallinn, Estonia, then up to St. Petersburg, Russia, then over to Finland, Helsinki, Finland, and then to Stockholm, Sweden. Now, not all cruises that go up to the Baltic Sea stop at the same places. So if you go on one, make sure it stops at the different places that you want to go. At each of the stops, we toured it in different ways. We would either take the hop-on, hop-off buses, or the jump-on, jump-off buses, are the green ones, or we would take tours that were arranged by the cruise line and went as a group. One of the most famous stops for tourists in Copenhagen is the Little Mermaid statue. It's a small statue that sits on a rock that people love to be photographed with. The poor little thing has quite a history. It's a very interesting statue to go and see. It has been damaged several times throughout its history and always restored. Nijhaven is another place that you've probably seen pictures of. It is a fun, very colorful street with shops and restaurants and cruise, the little cruise tours that you can take down the canals. Food, fun, music, people. It's a fun place, and don't forget to photograph this place. Some of the other top tourist sites to see when you go to Copenhagen is Amalienborg Palace, watching the changing of the guards. You could go to Tivoli, which is a amusement park. There is the Carlsberg Brewery, Rosenborg Palace. There's the town square. There are museums. There are Castellet is an example of a fort. There's the botanical gardens. And, of course, you don't want to miss going to Christiania. Christiania is like a country within a country. It's kind of a 60s little village. It's a quick stop, but you might as well see it. One of my favorites was Stroger Street. It is the longest pedestrian shopping street in Europe. So if shopping's your thing and food's your thing, this is a place to stop. Be sure when you go to Copenhagen that you see it both by land and by water. Take a canal cruise. It's a whole different perspective. Tallinn, Estonia was our next stop, a beautiful place, as well as a place of history, especially for us, as some of this history is fairly recent. One of the great stops to go see is the Song Festival grounds. This was built for the Estonian Song Festival, but was also in '88 the gathering place where the people came to sing patriotic hymns known as the Singing Revolution. It was the beginning of the overthrow of the Soviet rule. So the history there is worth going to see alone. One of my favorite stops, just because of the beautiful feeling here, was the Pirita Convent in Tallinn. This is part of the Byzantine convent history. It was built in about the 1500s. There is both the remains of the building there as well as a graveyard with wonderful markers. This fine example of 1500 architecture was destroyed by the Russian army during an invasion in 1597 and was never restored, but it is a wonderful place to go and hear the history of Estonia and see the building. You can't take a trip to Estonia without being reminded that places all over the world get used in films, and this is one of them that inspired a film that we all love. And the first time that I recognized that this might be the case is when I saw this cart with this lady and the little symbol on the side, and I thought, I know that. That is from the movie Shrek. And then guess who was there that you could take pictures with? And then I looked around and saw all the towers in the city and thought, someone who came here and saw this was inspired to put this into the movie Shrek. So it made it very close to my heart as I was there. We took the ship's tour that was offered on the ship of Estonia, but there's also a hop-on, hop-off bus there available at the pier. Also at the pier was shopping. Oh, lots and lots of shopping. This is one of the places where some of our group bought their amber and found it at a reasonable price. There are ceramics, there's glass figurines, there's knitted caps and gloves and scarves, and there's just a variety of things there to shop at the pier. All in all, Estonia was probably one of my very favorite stops on this trip. St. Petersburg, Russia was the next stop with its little round domes on the buildings, just as you would imagine. One word of caution is that I would always take the cruise tour, the tours offered by the cruise. Don't try to do it on your own. For one thing, there are specific laws there that you have to obey in taking or getting a tour guide there. So make sure that you take the ones offered on the cruise line on this one. The blue and white and gold exterior of the Catherine Palace is beautiful, but nothing like the interior. It is an overwhelming amount of gold trim inside, with beautiful dishes and rooms, but there is one room with quite a history. It's the Amber Room. During World War II, the invasion by the Germans, this wonderful room, all made of amber, was taken, and no one knows the whereabouts of. But they have recreated this and rebuilt this room at the cost of over $12 million to replace this room. They don't allow you to take pictures, so you have to go there to see it. But it is a beautiful place. It has gardens. It has statues. This is one place to see the magnificence of this once great empire. Just remember, your comfortable shoes because you're going to be there a while to see it. There are so many things to see in St. Petersburg. The tour took us just from one thing to another. It was just, there was so much history and so many things to see that St. Petersburg, Russia is a fabulous place to go. One of the things you might want to do is we noticed that we had a lot of time there and were able to take several tours from the ship, more than one. No trip to Russia would be complete without shopping. Of course, the nesting, I call them nesting dolls. They're called matryoshka dolls. They are the little dolls that fit one inside of another. They are made of one piece of wood, which is really fascinating. And some of the ones we saw were so tiny by the time you got to the inside one that it was just unreal. I mean, there would be like 12, 18 different dolls, one inside the other. So that was a fun thing to go both see and to shop for. Talking about shopping, our next stop was Helsinki, Finland. They have a market square there with all kinds of things that you can buy. A lot of them are handmade items and souvenirs, so that's really cool. And it's a great place to get crepes. They make crepes there in the square and just all kinds of flavors. Also, just off the square is a little building where you can get reindeer meat and try reindeer meat. That was an interesting thing, but fun to do. There's also a large shopping mall that has all kinds of your name brand high-end merchandise. We kept looking for moose because there was so many things that were moose related that were souvenirs, but this is the only moose that we saw while we were there. There was the other sites that we saw that were fabulous, was fabulous architecture, the Natural Museum, there was cathedrals and just fabulous buildings. And then there was the main cathedral, a huge square around it where everybody stopped to have their picture taken. As we came into the port of Stockholm, that gave us just a preview of this fabulous city. I love the old part. The Gamla Stan is what they call it, and it's narrow cobblestone streets and buildings that have cafes and restaurants and shopping. It was really pretty. And then we went out and took a tour of the TV and radio tower, and that was impressive. I would like more time to. The cruise ended back in Copenhagen, Denmark. I want to share a little tip with you about the weather.
When cruising up in the Baltic area, make sure that you come prepared for both warm and cold weather. They only have about 30 days of sunshine a year. We happened to get those last few days, and now we've got kind of the gray, hazy, cloudy weather, and so make sure that you come with layers, maybe like a sweatshirt and then a coat, so that you can layer. Bring gloves and a hat just in case. It is chilly out here today. It's worth coming, but glad to be prepared.
Put your hat on. We are going back to the ship now.
Even if you go at a time of year that it's chilly on your Baltic cruise, it's warm and comfy inside the cruise ship with food, with fun, and with romance. In this short show, I didn't have time to really spend much time focusing on any one of the cities that we went to. If you would like to stop by our website or see some of our other shows at scattertravel.tv, you will be able to see these cities in more depth and get a better idea of what there is to see and do there. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scatter Travel TV.